All right, I want to show y'all something that's kind of fun. What do you see in here?
Socks.
You see some socks, water bottle, some candy, a little bit of food, a fruit bar, yeah, some crackers, and a little book. People who can read, can you say what that says? Street Roots, Rose City Resource. What's the Rose City? Does anybody know what city is the Rose City? Portland. Portland is also called the Rose City. And this, Street Roots, is a little book that helps people who don't have a lot of resources, who don't have a lot of money, or maybe they don't have a home. This little booklet tells them how to get things that they need. Now, what about these little items in here? What do you think about them? Do you think that if you didn't have a whole lot, that these little things would be pretty helpful to have? Yeah, these things are kind of helpful, right? Socks are super duper helpful. Having clean socks. How many people have on socks today? Not all of us, but some of us have on some socks. And it's really important that you put on clean socks every day. Because if you keep wearing the same socks day after day after day, they are very good for your feet. So you need some clean socks. So people who live on the street may not have an ability to put on a bunch of clean socks. So we have some clean socks in here. And I'll teach you all now at this age that socks, clean white socks like this, are some of the most important things that you could do, that you could give to someone who's living on the street. Now, do any of you live on the street, or do you have a home and a bed and a place to live? Yeah. You have a place that you live, right? So we have been blessed with all kinds of amazing things. We have a home, we have a bed. Anybody have a pillow? I have a pillow. Anybody have a favorite blanket? So do I. Totally. Yeah, you have a car one. Anybody have a stuffed animal that they sleep with? Yeah, we totally think that's right. Several of them. Well, sometimes when we have a whole lot of stuff that helps us to feel good, it's really good and really important that we share out of what we have. That we share with people who don't have a lot of the same things and don't have a lot of the things that they need. And Jesus today tells a story about somebody who wasn't very good at sharing. And it's a sad story because the person really regretted that he didn't share. When all was said and done, he was really sad that he didn't share. So these bags have been made special so that we can share with people in our community who don't have as much as we do. Now there's a whole bunch of them. This whole bag is full of them. And outside on the table out there, there's a whole bunch of them. And they're all ready to go to give away. They're not for us because we have plenty. How many of you have more than one pair of socks in your room right now? I do. Yeah. So let's give these away, right? So that they can have another pair. So today, when you leave church, not when you go out to go play, but when you leave church today, I want you to be sure with your family to take one of these bags so that you can find someone to give it to this week. Your parents, your tall people will help you find someone to give it to. Okay? And this is part of what we do because we have been blessed with so much that we get to give some away. Kind of awesome, huh? All right, so today, Miss Joellen isn't with us, so we're not going to have story time, but Mr. Kyler is, so you can go downstairs and play if you like, or stay up here in the sanctuary. But first, we're going to have a prayer. Are you ready? Here we go. Loving God, thank you for loving us. Help us to see how much we have and to give some away. Amen. All right, head on downstairs if you like. And remember that we play the bells later in the service. So we're going to send a message down to Kyler via remote device to say, come on up. To play the bells? No, you'll come up later. The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 16th chapter. Jesus told a parable There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who longed to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried away by the angels to be with Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where the rich man was being tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away and Lazarus by his side. He called out, "Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in these flames." But Abraham said, "Child, remember that during your lifetime you received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner evil things. And now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. Besides all this, between you and us a great chasm has been fixed, so that those who might want to pass from here to you cannot do so, and no one can cross from there to us." The rich man said, "Then, Father, I beg you to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may warn them, so that they will not also come into this place of torment." Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. They should listen to them." The rich man said, "No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, then they will repent." Abraham said to him, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." This is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. Sorry, Caroline, I don't know where I'm preaching from today.
Make my job interesting.
Keeping you on your toes. There's a story that is told oftentimes when people are starting to talk about some stewardship stuff. And it's a story of, I think it's Vikings or some kind of Nordic warriors of some form or fashion who were being baptized. And when they would go into the water, they would keep their right hand above the water. Anybody heard this story before? And people ask, why are you doing this? Why are you're submerging your entire body for this baptism into the love of God? Why are you keeping your right hand above the water? And they would say, so that when I fight, the rest of me might be saved, but my right hand might be available for the sword. And one of the great theologians of our modern age who talks about stewardship says that he thinks that many of us in the West are baptized with our wallet in hand, just right above the water. Money is a really hard topic. Stewardship, money, all of it. It's hard and it's confusing, and all 3 of our readings talk about money today, and so I don't think that I can faithfully preach without talking some about money, and yet this is a much more rich parable than just being about give your stuff away, the rich are going to be condemned, and the poor are going to heaven, right? There's always more to the story than that. So I want to lift up again. I used this as a primary source last week, and I'm using it again as a primary source this week. So this book by Kenneth Bailey, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes, is a brilliant, brilliant book. And it opens up the parables in ways that I have not experienced in other commentary opening up the parables in other ways. So in a year when we have a goal that is to increase our biblical knowledge and biblical literacy, if you feel a call to some kind of book that you don't have to read the whole thing all the way through, trust me, it's not that easy. It was assigned last semester. So you don't have to read the whole thing all the way through. You can look at it and say, okay, well, I really don't get the unjust steward from last week, or the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, and just go to that chapter and read just that little chapter and get a different insight. So I want to highlight some things that come out of the chapter for this particular parable this week, it might feel a little more Bible study for the sermon this week, and a little less story-driven. These parables are hard. So if you have the scripture sheet, go ahead and pull that out and keep that with you. If you don't have a scripture sheet and you have a mobile phone, you can look up Luke 16, 19 to 31 on your phone, and it will probably send you to BibleGateway.com, where you can access hundreds of translations of the scripture. So it'll probably send you to NIV or something like that. It's okay, whatever translation it comes up with for today, just go with it. So first we need to remember that this is a parable. What are parables?
Stories.
Stories. Are they allegories? No. Does anyone remember from English class what an allegory is compared to a story?
No.
Allegory is a story where something equals something else. It's like a direct correlation. So if we were to try to look at a parable as an allegory, we might say, for example, we might think of the prodigal son. And we'll say, well, the father is clearly God, and the prodigal son that wastes everything are the Gentile people, and the older son who gets bitter are the people of the Abrahamic tradition. And we'll kind of make things equal things. Parables are not allegories, right? They're stories. They're rich. They're multivalent. They're slippery and tricky and sometimes very hard to get your handle on because they are difficult to understand. They were difficult in the time of Jesus. Now, the thing that's kind of bizarre about this is that parables are one of the primary teaching tools of Jesus. He uses them all the time. So he wasn't one of those preachers who stood up there and said, okay, folks, you have been blessed with a whole bunch of stuff. And if you hold on to all of it, it's not going to be good for you. So I want you to give it away. Right? Jesus wouldn't be that obvious. So Jesus uses these stories to get people thinking and struggling. All right, so here's our parable for today. We're not going to try to make things equate other things. We're not going to say that this is specifically about the afterlife. Even Martin Luther went down that road. Long conversations about what this particular parable means about purgatory and when do we end. The whole afterlife debate is a conversation you can research if you wish. Let's look at what's in the parable for today. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple. What do you know about the dye purple? Today we were dyeing with indigo. Royalty. Expensive. Anyone know how purple, the dye, was created? What's that? From a sea creature. It comes from, the purple of this time period comes from a very small animal that cannot be found very easily. It's a lot of work to find it. And so it's a lot of work and very expensive to have anything that is that color. The color that we think of as purple, what they often were referring to is what we think of as red. Has anyone tried to create a red dye from natural sources before? It's really, really hard. Abby's nodding her head. Like, if you're a painter or someone who works with dye and ink, and Janelle's back there, coming up with a crimson red is really, really, really hard from natural sources. And the reds that we have chemicals in them to create that red. So purple fabric showed extreme wealth, extreme extreme wealth, this particular clause. And he, notice at the very end of the sentence, what does it say? That he did this, how often? Every day. He had enough purple clothes to wear them, how often? Every day. All right, and fine linen. This is not a reference, thank you, Kenneth Bailey, for cluing me in on this. This is not a reference to the outer shirts. This is a reference to the undergarments. So not only did he have the finest outer garments, but he was wearing like fine Egyptian linen undergarments. From head to toe, closest layer to the skin all the way out. The man was dressed in luxury. How often? Every day. And then what did he do? What else did he do every day? Feasted. Now, do you think that he was the one who was in the kitchen cooking the meals and making things? No. So he probably had, what, servants who were doing all of this. Which means if he had servants cooking him this food, a feast, every day, what was he not observing? The Sabbath. So in one line, we learn that this man not only is astronomically wealthy, he has no regard for his faith, for the practices of his culture, or for the care and well-being of those who serve him. In one line, we've been able to get the entire character of this man. Now, at his gate lay a poor man named, this is the only character in any parable that Jesus tells that has a name. The only one. The prodigal son is the prodigal son. The father is the father. The other character in that story is the older son. The seed one, who's in it? A sower, went out to sow. The lost coin, a woman, right? So we don't get names for any other character in our parables other than Lazarus. So there's got to be something about that name, right? So the name Lazarus, this is where I'm opening my book to make sure I get it right. The name Lazarus means the one whom God helps. The one whom God helps. So Lazarus is out there, and he's laid at the gate every day. He can't bring himself to the gate of this man's mansion and his wealth, right? So the community bring Lazarus to the gate of this man who has more than enough, who maybe could share some with this person and help him to be well. Lays him at the gate. He lays there every day. The one whom God helps gets taken there and is longing for scraps, for something that would fall from the rich man's table. But he doesn't even get that, because the droppings from the rich man's table go to his guard dogs, right? Because if you've got that much stuff, you gotta have some guard dogs to keep yourself safe. But what do the guard dogs do for Lazarus? They lick his wounds. Would guard dogs lick the wounds of someone who had malintent for their owner? So again, in one sentence, we get the character of Lazarus, because not only is he poor, he's laid, which is not that he walks there himself, he is laid there. It's a passive verb. And so he is placed there. So he has community. They're doing the best they can for him. He's placed there daily. And he is so gentle, so kind. He is such a spirit that the guard dogs, instead of attacking or growling, the guard dogs come and lick his wounds. The only form of healing medicine that Lazarus receives. So the story continues. The two gentlemen both die. They go to their respective places. Lazarus comes to lounge with Abraham in a place of honor at a feast. And he has received this wonderful bounty. And the rich man ends up in Hades, full of regret and torment. Kenneth Bailey walks through some of this. And he walks through, what is it to see every single day walking by people who are begging, to have as much and to walk by people who are begging, and compassion fatigue. Does anyone know that term, compassion fatigue? When you see so much that you no longer see because you're just exhausted. Tiana, I have no doubt that you may have experienced compassion fatigue in your life. Tiana raised her hand. We'll be blessing her to go to Turkey. She leaves for Turkey to serve this week. So compassion fatigue is when you see so much of the hard stuff in the world over and over and over again that you no longer actually see it. Do we think that the rich man is suffering from compassion fatigue? Not so much. Right? And part of how we know this is that in the midst of his regret, in the midst of wishing that things had been different so that he wouldn't land where he's landing, he calls out and he sees Lazarus, and he doesn't bother talking to Lazarus because Lazarus is still what? Just this poor man's servant, right? So he calls out to Father Abraham. He says, "My Father Abraham, please send Lazarus. He's looking really good. Glad he's doing well. Send him down here to me so that I can have some relief. I'm really not accustomed to being in pain." And Abraham responds, "My son, can't do that. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. The chasm is too wide." And deeper in his regret, instead of calling Lazarus, "I am sorry. I did not see you when you were in pain. I did not see you that you were sick. I did not see that you were imprisoned by your hurt. I did not see. I am sorry. Can you forgive me?" Instead, the rich man does what? Save my brothers. All right, well, at least send Lazarus to save my brothers. Is the first one serve water, and then it's serve my brothers, right? Again, he's not catching it. There's no remorse. There's regret, but no remorse. And so Abraham says they have Moses and the prophets. They should listen to them. But what are they doing every day? They're feasting. Are they going to Sabbath? Are they hearing Moses and the prophets? No. Send him, please. If someone raises from the dead, then they'll believe. So here's the question. This is not an allegory. But where do we fall in this parable? Who could we be? In some ways, there are tons of sermons preached where we are the rich man. Because of all that we have, we are North American. We have more than most of the world's population in the way of wealth. And we could be the rich man. So I could stand up here and say, y'all better give and give and give and give and give until it hurts, because otherwise there's going to be a whole bunch of torment coming. That's not really our theology, right? So I don't think that that's where we fall. Are we Lazarus? Are we the one whom God helps? Are we the one who is carried by community and seeking help and only receiving it from dogs and finding our wellness only in the afterlife? Not so much. We're not Abraham, not the patriarch of a great nation, last I checked. Could we be the 5 brothers? And the question is, we have had someone die and come back to life. And we have heard Moses and the prophets. And we've heard the gospel of Jesus. So people of God, how will you respond? We can gather everything that we have and be scared and afraid and hoard it all and wear purple every day and feast and not care. Or we can enter into community and we can see those around us and we can reach out a hand and we can start with blessing bags and give water and socks. And we can learn their names because they are community and a part of us. That is our call. That is the challenge of Jesus today. What can you give to the one whom God helps in the midst of your community? Practice it. I promise if you practice it, it will get easier and your blessings will abound. May we all strive to hear the word and give.